everyone, and welcome to another tutorial video. Now, a lot of you have been asking for a teleportation kind of tutorial on how to teleport players in Pavlov to wherever you need to. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Now, the first thing to do is to create a blueprint for it. So we're going to go ahead and create a blueprint class by right-clicking in the empty space and choosing blueprint. From there, we're actually going to select a trigger box class, and we're going to call this a basic teleporter. We're going to go ahead and open up the blueprint. And this is what we should start off with. You should see a green outlined cube with nothing else. First things first is we're going to get started with creating the logic for it, and then we'll beautify the element so that way it's a little easier to see in game. We're going to click on the event graph. So once we get into the blueprint event graph, we're going to have this event actor begin overlap automatically. Though if you do need to grab it, you can just right click, type event actor begin overlap. Obviously, since we already have it here, when we select it, it's just going to move it somewhere else. We need to filter out everything else that's not a player. So the first thing we're going to do is we're first going to grab this execution pin, and we're going to use the switch has authority. Then from there, we're going to drag the other actor blue pin out somewhere in an empty space, and we're going to type cast to pawn. Great. From the authority to execution pin, we're going to go into cast to pawn. And now from here, what we essentially did is whenever an actor passes through this box, we want to filter it out so that way the only thing that happens is we're messing with the pawn information. Anything else is considered a fail. And we're going to leave this empty because we don't want to do anything. We don't want bullets or random actors to suddenly teleport to this location when we don't want them to. And then from here, we're going to take the as pawn. We're going to drag it into empty space. We're going to type teleport. And now, really honestly, as simple as that is a basic teleporter. Though it's not very good at teleporting people to specific locations. In fact, when a player walks into this box, they're going to get teleported to the coordinates 0, 0, 0. So what does that mean in terms of our current predicament? So let's go ahead and see what that is. So if we just add something like, let's say we add a cube here, you'll notice in the details from the outliner that we have this transform information. So that's where it is currently in the world. So if we type 0, 0, 0, that means that when a player walks through, they're going to get teleported to the center of this cube every time. And sometimes we really don't want that, because look at where it puts them. It puts them right underneath the map. So how do we fix that? Well, we can find a location that we want to teleport them to. For example, let's say we want to teleport them over this wall that we have. In fact, let's just get rid of this so it's not in the way. Oh, and Unreal just froze. You gotta be kidding me. Ha, that's unfortunate. So going back to what I was saying, you could have a cube in a space, grab this information here, 110, 730, 260, whatever you have it. And you could go back to here, and you could paste each of those coordinates into this block, but that's kind of tedious and that takes up a lot of time, and that really isn't great if you have multiple teleporters and you have to grab multiple destinations, but it still technically works. So what can we do? Well, let's say that we have this cube and we want people to teleport to this cube. If we go back to the other screen, into our blueprint, we could grab this destination location yellow tab and go backwards. We can drag it into empty space, and we could do get actor location. And now we have this self, we have this target. So we want to create a variable now so we can reference a actor in the outliner on the other screen. So what we do is we're going to go into the variables tab. We're going to click on this plus button, and we're going to give this a name. Let's just call it actor to teleport 2. And by default, everything's a Boolean, so we're going to change this by going into, we're going to click on this drop down, and the class that we're looking for, the target, needs to be an actor. And same with the actor location, it also needs to be an actor. So in the search bar, we're just going to type actor. And you're going to look for the object type just actor, not any of this other stuff. And now you'll notice that that red icon has turned into blue. Now we're going to go ahead and click on this, and we want to make it instance editable. If you remember in prior videos, making things instance editable allows you to create multiple copies of the blueprint with their own variables that you can control. So that way they're not all the same. Compile that to make sure we have no errors. And then we're going to grab this variable. We're going to drop it in any place, and we're going to select get. We want to get a reference to it. And we're going to drag that to this. And there we go. So now when a player walks into this box, we're going to teleport them to this actor's location. So now what do we need to do? So let's go back to the other screen. So now if we go back to the content browser, we can drag our basic teleporter out. We can put it wherever we want, and if we are highlighting it in the outliner, you'll notice this default tab, which has the text actor to teleport to. If we select this, we pretty much see everything in the outliner. And the reason for that is because everything usually has an actor base to it. But now we can select this cube. Let's give it a unique name. Place to teleport to. You can make this whatever name you want. You don't have to do that. So now we can go back to this object in our map. We can go to the default and we can select the option that we created, which was this place to teleport to. And now every time a player walks into this box, their actor will get teleported to the center of this cube. Now let's say that we don't want it to be something that we can see in game, because we can see this cube and it's kind of ugly. So instead, we're going to go back to the place actors. We're going to get rid of this cube because we don't need it. And yes, I do realize it'll break that, but that's okay. We're actually going to drag this actor out instead. And it's blank, so it's going to be invisible, so you don't see it. And we're going to rename this one place to teleport to. And we're going to go back to our block. We're going to go to that default tab, and we're going to select place to teleport to. And now when the player walks in here, they're going to get teleported to this actor that you can't see in the game, which is nice because it makes it a little bit more pretty. It's not so ugly. And if we go into game view, this is what normal players would see in the game. And you notice how that actor is invisible, so players aren't going to see that in game. But wait, we have another problem now. Notice how when we switch between game view, which if you don't know how to do that, you just press the letter G, you'll notice that our teleport box, this element here, we can't see it in game. So we're going to do what we did similarly with the trigger boxes and collision boxes, and we're going to give it something that we could see. If we go back to the blueprint and we go to the viewport, we're going to create something more visible for players. We're going to add a cube. Now you'll notice the cube is bigger than the box, so I always like to go to 0.8 because it usually fits within that green box volume like pretty perfectly. We're going to grab a material. Now if you remember in previous videos, we created materials that were transparent, so we're going to do pretty much the same thing. Volume transparent red. There we go. So now we can see through it just like we have before. And let's go back to the game view really quick. So here we are. So here's our cube now. We can see it now, but whoops. If we go into game view, it's still invisible. Well, shoot. That means that our actor is still hidden. And again, similarly to how we did with these, we're going to make it visible. So if we go back to the other screen, we're going to go to the basic teleporter, the parent root of it. We're going to type hidden in the details. We're going to uncheck actor hidden in game. We're going to go to the collision component. We're going to hide that in game because we don't want people to see the green box. And in the cube, it should by default not be hidden in game. When we press G, Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, so what the heck did I do wrong? Oh, shoot, how did this not, whoa, shoot, I did not mean to tag that. That is not what I meant. Make sure that these are unchecked. Let's check hidden in game. Not sure why that didn't save. All right, now it's where we need it to be. So now we can see the trigger volume that we need to walk into, and we don't see the actor icon, and every time a player walks in there, they're gonna get teleported to that actor. Pretty simple, actually. Now, let's say that we want to create a teleporter that you have to grab. So for instance, say we have a door. So let's go ahead and build a very quick door. All right, so after we create the door, which is a horrible door, so I would highly recommend not doing it, but this is just for an example. Let's say you want it when a player grabs the door handle that they teleport to a different location. Well, that's pretty simple to do as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the content browser, and we're going to create a new blueprint class. I'm going to use the actor base class, and I'm going to call this door handle teleporter. Great. And when we open it up, we're going to have a blank thing. This time we're not going to have a green box outline. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the root, we're going to add, and we're going to add this thing called a Pavlov interact box. Wow, I can type, holy cow. Great. Now, what did that do? Now it created this red box around the actor. And that's going to be really important. So what we're going to do now is we're also going to, we don't need to create a cube for it to see because we know where the door handle is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the event graph. This time we're not going to use any of these default events. In fact, we can get rid of them. We're going to go to the interact box, we're going to right click, and we're going to add the event on interact box client, and we're going to add the event on interact box server. Great. So now we have these two events. So I'm going to move the server one a bit further away, as we'll get to that in a second. But what the interact box uses is three different things. The interaction, which can either be gripped or trigger, the hand proxy of the player that is doing the interaction, and the actual interact box itself. Let's say that we only want people to be able to go through the door if they grab it with their middle finger or the center trigger. We're going to grab this. We're going to type enumerator equal. And you'll notice we have this drop down with two options, grabbed and trigger. So we only want it when people grab the handle that they teleport. So we're actually going to take the Boolean return value, we're going to put it into a branch or if statement, basically. Now from here, this is where the other event becomes useful. What we're going to do is if anyone interacts with this box by grabbing it, we're going to send interact server, and the target is going to be the interact box, which we can actually just take this and plug it in directly to here. Great. The interaction type is going to be grab. We can also just reference it directly from the event. And we definitely need this hand proxy. For the interact object, I don't believe we need this, so we're going to ignore it. And what this does is it's going to call this event on interact box server with these elements again. This is for our server to do some work. So now what we can do is from the hand proxy, we're going to get to the player proxy. And then from the player proxy, we're going to get the pawn. And now, just like we did with the basic teleporter, we're just simply going to drag the pawn reference, and we're going to do teleport. Great. And now, similarly, we can create a variable. We're going to drag the yellow line, get actor location. We're going to select this like normal. We're going to make it instance editable, and then we're going to get a reference to it. And just like that, what we've done is we now have a interact box where when a player grabs the handle or grabs the box, they're going to get teleported to that location. And this kind of makes it a little bit more immersive. So let's go into the map and let's see what that looks like. So now we need to take this door handle teleporter and we need to put it on the handle. You notice it's a little bit big, so we're going to have to shrink it down a little bit. And in fact, I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger than the handle itself. And now, whenever a player grabs this handle, here it is in game view, here it is in the editor view. When they grab that, they're going to get teleported to wherever we reference it. So let's quickly do that as well. So let's click the box. And again, under this default, we have this actor to teleport to. We're going to just use the same actor we had earlier, the place to teleport to. And now, every time you grab that handle, you're going to get teleported right over here. Pretty easy. So now comes the element that a lot of people like to use this for. Let's say you have specific people that you want to be able to go through these doors. So let's go back to the basic teleporter script, or blueprint, as in the first example, and let's add some stuff to this to make this a more unique type of teleporter. So we're going to add a variable, and we're going to call this names of VIP, or whatever you want to call, and we're going to change this to string. Now we're going to select this value, and underneath the variable tab, we're actually going to make this an array. We don't need this to be instance editable as well. So now let's make it where after we cast a pawn, we check for some information to see if you're allowed to teleport there. Okay? So let's take this off by breaking this link. So from the pawn, we're going to drag this and we're going to do get Pavlov player status by pawn. And this can give us a lot of information on a player. So we're going to take the player status, we're going to drop it, break it, and now we have access to a lot of that information. So we want to see if a specific player's name, or what their username is in game, is inside of a list of players to teleport them to this spot. So from here, from the player state, we're going to drag, get player name, and now we're going to put this value into something called a contains under the array. And what this does is it's going to look in an array for this value, for this name. And that's why we created this names of VIP. So let's add some values. So we're going to compile. We're going to add just a few of these, and you're going to add the names of players that you want to be able to use this teleporter. I'm going to just say name 1, name 2, etc., just for the sake of example. Great. Now we're going to drag this, get a reference to it, and we're going to plug it into this contains. And now we're going to go from the Boolean return to a branch or if statement. And then we're going to connect the execution pins. And now, every time a player walks in here, we're going to connect the true as well to teleport. Every time a player walks into this box, it's going to check this variable names of VIPs. It's going to go through each of these elements, and it's going to see if that name of the player that walked into there is inside this list. If it's false, nothing happens. The player is not teleported. But if it's true, the player is now able to teleport to wherever we want them to go. But let's say that you don't want to create 2 of these basic teleporter blueprints. Say you only want to create 1. You want to make it toggleable between a VIP door and just a regular teleporter. We're going to create a variable. We're going to call this special teleporter. We're going to make it a Boolean, and we're going to change it back to single since we don't need that. And before we do any of these checks, we're going to take this execution pin, we're going to drag it, and we're going to put it into another branch. And the condition for this is this variable, special teleporter. We're going to click on this variable, we're going to make it instance editable, and we're going to compile, save, And the default value, we want it to be false. And if it's false, then the player just gets teleported to it. So any player can use this now. But now we have this special teleporter to make instances unique. So what does that mean? Let's go back to this. Let's go back to the map and let's talk about what that means. So under that default, if we select the basic teleporter, you'll notice now there's this special teleporter option. And if we check this and make it true, now when we go back to the blueprint, if this statement is true, now it has to go through the name check, meaning that not every player can just use this, and it's going to check to see if your name is in that list. But if we make it false and we go back, now when we go through this, if this is false, it just means that it's going to teleport the player regardless. And that's really nice for creating a simple teleporter that can be both special and normal. So you don't have to create two blueprint instances. So if we go back here, let's drag another basic teleporter out here. This one, we're gonna create a new actor as well. So we have this place to teleport to. I'm just gonna duplicate it and I'm gonna rename it to, let's call it the VIP zone. Let's move it somewhere far away. Let's say we put it over there. And let's say that it's walled off, so that way no one but VIP players can get into it. So now we're going to make this one special. We're going to make the actor reference be the VIP zone. And now this one can only be used by people inside of a VIP list. And this one could be used by anyone. So now, if you're able to go through that teleporter, if your name is in that list, now you come to this special zone where you could do whatever you want with it. And not everyone's allowed to go in, because we added this extra branch. That's how you make a basic teleporter. And you would do something very similar for the door handle teleporter as well. You would add a branch statement into this area, wherever you wanted to, of course, wherever it makes logical sense, and you do something very similar to make a unique grabbable teleporter. And that's pretty much the end of this tutorial. I hope you all found it incredibly useful and continue modding and have a lot of fun. Thanks for watching.